The unknown signal. The Galactic Alliance's monitoring station K789 was considered the most boring posting in the known universe. Positioned at the edge of explored space, its sole purpose was to watch for signs of primitive civilizations attempting their first faster-than-light jumps. In 300 cycles, it had detected exactly nothing of interest. Until today. Senior monitor Zextal's primary sensory membrane vibrated with confusion as she studied the readings. The signal had appeared from nowhere. No warning, no light-speed approach, just sudden existence where moments before there had been empty space. Central Command, this is Station K789. She transmitted, her appendages trembling slightly. We have detected an anomalous vessel at coordinates 47 to 800 and 90 to 116. Requesting verification and instructions. The response was immediate. Maintain observation. Support fleet is being dispatched. As Zextal watched, more data streamed across her screens. The vessel was unlike anything in the Alliance database. Its hull appeared to be made of materials that actively absorbed scanning beams rather than reflecting them. Its drive emissions were virtually non-existent, yet it moved with precise, deliberate purpose. 3 hours later, the support fleet arrived. 5 of the Alliance's most advanced vessels, led by Commander Rix aboard the flagship Eternal Vision. Zextal had expected them to immediately challenge or confront the unknown ship. Instead, they maintained a cautious distance. Update. Commander Rix's gravelly voice filled the station's command center. The vessel's composition and technology suggest capabilities far beyond what we typically encounter from emerging civilizations. We are detecting energy signatures that defy our current understanding of physics. As if responding to his words, the mysterious ship finally moved. A signal burst forth, transmitting on all known frequencies and several that weren't supposed to exist. The message was clear, precise, and in perfect Alliance standard. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Ship Horizon. We come seeking dialogue and warning. Your civilization faces an imminent threat you cannot detect. Request immediate conference with your highest authority. The command center erupted in chaos. Earth was a quarantined world, designated as too primitive for contact just 2 centuries ago. They shouldn't have been capable of this level of advancement for at least another millennium. Commander Rix's response was measured but firm. Unknown vessel, you have entered Alliance space without authorization. Power down your systems and prepare for inspection. Commander, Captain Chen's voice carried an edge of urgency. We don't have time for standard protocols. Our sensors detect quantum phase distortions throughout your territory. Someone or something is systematically corrupting the fabric of your reality. We've seen this before. We can help. Urix's secondary breathing sacs inflated with indignation. You expect us to believe that a species that achieved spaceflight mere centuries ago has developed technology we cannot comprehend. That you can detect threats we cannot. Commander, Zextal interrupted, her voice shaking. The unknown vessel, it's gone. The horizon had vanished, leaving no trace of its passage. Seconds later, it reappeared directly between the Alliance vessels, close enough for visual observation. Its hull seemed to drink in the light of nearby stars, creating an outline of perfect darkness against space itself. We achieved this level of advancement precisely because you quarantined us, Captain Chen explained, her tone somehow both diplomatic and unyielding. Isolation forced innovation. We had to solve problems without the crutch of borrowed technology. Now, we're trying to prevent the same kind of catastrophe that forced our rapid evolution. Before Urix could respond, alarms blared across all 5 Alliance vessels. Their engines suddenly powered down, weapon systems went dark, and every piece of advanced technology simply stopped working. They floated, helpless, in the void. A demonstration. Chen's voice was softer now. We could have done this at any time. Instead, we chose to talk. Your civilization is under attack by entities that exist partially outside normal spacetime. We've fought them before. Let us help you before it's too late. In the silence that followed, Zextal realized she was witnessing a moment that would reshape the galaxy. Humanity hadn't just achieved the impossible. They had surpassed it, developed technologies that the Alliance had never even dreamed of. And now they were offering to share that knowledge, not out of pride or ambition, but out of a genuine desire to protect others. Commander Rix's next words would echo through history. "Captain Chen, perhaps we should discuss this threat of yours. And welcome to the galaxy." The Horizon systems powered up the Alliance vessels as quickly as they had disabled them. As diplomatic channels were established and information began to flow, Zextal couldn't help but wonder, if this was what humanity had achieved in isolation, what might they accomplish as part of the galactic community? The monitoring station that had been the most boring posting in the galaxy had just become the site of the most significant first contact in Alliance history, and somehow Zextal suspected this was only the beginning. The Silent Hunter. The Alliance High Council chamber had never felt so crowded. Representatives from 37 species packed the circular hall, their attention fixed on the holographic display at its center. Captain Sarah Chen stood calmly beside it, her presence somehow commanding despite being physically smaller than most beings present. "The entity we're tracking doesn't just move through space," she explained, manipulating the hologram to show a wave of distortion spreading across Alliance territory. "It moves through reality itself. We call it a phase wraith." High Counselor Vexmar's crystalline form shifted colors in agitation. "And you expect us to believe that humanity, barely out of its stellar cradle, is the only civilization to detect these beings?" "No," Chen replied, her expression grave. "We expect you to understand that we're the only ones who survived their first encounter with them." The hologram shifted, showing Earth's solar system. Then it changed, revealing a second Earth in a parallel dimension, then a third, and a fourth, hundreds of alternate Earths, each slightly different. Most were dead worlds. The phase wraith attacked humanity across multiple realities simultaneously, Chen continued. "In most timelines, we never saw them coming. But in our reality, we detected them early. It cost us billions of lives and forced us to develop technologies that broke the conventional rules of physics. But we survived. We learned. We adapted." The chamber erupted in murmurs as the implications sank in. Commander Rix, now acting as liaison between the Alliance fleet and the humans, stepped forward. "The energy signatures Captain Chen's ship detected are spreading," he confirmed. "Whatever this entity is, it's already infiltrating our systems. 3 outpost stations went dark last cycle, with no explanation." The Horizon's sensor officer, Lieutenant Maya Patel, approached the hologram. Her dark skin seemed to absorb the light from the display as she adjusted it, revealing a pattern that made several council members recoil. "The phase wraith isn't just shutting down your outposts," she explained. "It's rewriting the quantum signatures of every being it encounters. Those stations aren't dark. They're still operating, still sending reports. But the crews are no longer themselves. They've been overwritten." "Impossible," Vexmar declared, but his crystalline form had paled to an almost transparent state. "Our consciousness transfer technology is the most advanced in the galaxy. We would detect any attempts at neural manipulation." "That's exactly the problem," Chen interjected. "Your technology is too advanced, too reliant on quantum computing and neural networks. The phase wraith doesn't need to fight your defenses. It simply shifts reality slightly, and your own systems do its work for it." The hologram zoomed in on one of the affected stations. The crew appeared to be going about their normal duties, but something was off about their movements. Too precise, too coordinated. "We've tracked it to your core worlds," Chen continued. "It's been here for months, maybe years, gradually spreading its influence. The only reason you haven't detected it is because it's using your own technology against you. Your quantum networks, your consciousness transfers, your FTL communications, they're all becoming part of its neural matrix." "And what do these creatures want?" a reptilian counselor demanded, scales bristling. To rewrite reality itself, Lieutenant Patil answered. They exist partially outside normal spacetime. Our universe is incompatible with their preferred state of existence, so they change it, civilization by civilization, solar system by solar system. If you've defeated these entities before, Urix asked, why do you need our help now? Chen's expression darkened. Because this one is different. It's learned from our previous encounters. It's using your technology in ways we never anticipated. And it's building something in the core of your territory, something big enough to affect hundreds of light years at once. The hologram shifted one final time, showing the center of Alliance space. There, barely detectable even to the Horizon's advanced sensors, was a web of quantum distortions forming a massive, complex pattern. We estimate we have less than 48 hours before it activates, Chen concluded. When it does, it will rewrite the consciousness of every sentient being connected to your quantum networks, which is roughly 60% of your population. Silence fell over the chamber as the magnitude of the threat became clear. The Alliance's greatest strength, its technological interconnectedness, had become its greatest vulnerability. What do you propose? Vexmar asked, his earlier skepticism replaced by grim acceptance. We need to combine our technologies, Chen replied. The Horizon's phase shift drives and quantum shielding with your neural networks and energy production capabilities. We need to build something that's never existed before. A weapon that can fight an enemy that exists in multiple realities simultaneously. And you think we can do this in less than 48 hours? Urix asked. Chen smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. Commander, humanity went from our first powered flight to landing on our moon in 66 years. We went from discovering nuclear fission to quantum phase technology in less than 2 centuries. Give us 48 hours and the resources we need, and we'll show you why isolation made us strong. As the council chamber erupted in activity, Lieutenant Patel's sensors detected something new. A ripple in reality so subtle that even the Horizon's advanced systems barely noticed it. The phase wraith was watching, and it had just realized that its prey had teeth. Breaking point. Deep within the Alliance's primary shipyard, the impossible was taking shape. Hundreds of engineers from dozens of species worked alongside the human crew of the Horizon, combining technologies that were never meant to coexist. Captain Chen hadn't slept in 36 hours, but her movements remained precise as she supervised the integration of the Horizon's phase shift technology into an Alliance battle cruiser. The quantum harmonics are still out of alignment, Lieutenant Patel reported, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Their power grid wasn't designed for this kind of temporal displacement. Then we redesigned their power grid, Chen replied, her voice carrying the weight of exhaustion, but none of its weakness. We have less than 12 hours left. Commander Urix watched from a nearby observation platform, his multiple eyes tracking the organized chaos below. The humans worked with a desperate efficiency he'd never seen before, solving problems that should have taken years to address in matters of minutes. Your species, he said to Chen as she joined him on the platform. You operate as if failure isn't even a possibility. Failure is always a possibility, she corrected him. We just refuse to accept it as an outcome. A sudden alarm blared through the facility. Lieutenant Patel's voice cut through the noise. Captain, we're detecting quantum disruptions in the local network. The phase wraith, it's making its move early. The massive screens throughout the shipyard flickered to life, showing security feeds from across Alliance space. On every screen, crews moved with an unnatural synchronization, their movements perfectly coordinated as they turned against their own people. It's using the infected stations as amplifiers, Chen realized, already moving. It's not waiting for its main device to activate. It's trying to stop us from finishing the weapon. The shipyard's own systems began to turn, automated defense turrets swiveling toward the gathered engineers. Chen's reaction was instant. She slapped a small device onto the nearest console, and every piece of connected technology within 100 meters went dark. Local quantum dampener, she explained to a startled Urix. But it won't hold for long. We need to get that ship operational now. Throughout the facility, chaos erupted as machinery turned against its makers. The human crew moved with practiced precision, deploying more dampeners and creating safe zones where they could continue their work. But for every system they protected, dozens more fell to the phase wraith's influence. The main engineering bay is compromised, Paddle reported, her voice tight with tension. We've lost access to the primary power couplings. Then we go through the hull, Chen decided. She turned to Urix, her eyes intense. Commander, I need your authorization to deploy our emergency measures. What emergency measures? A series of small dark objects detached from the Horizon's hull, each no larger than a human hand. They moved through space with impossible grace, passing through the shipyard's solid walls as if they weren't there. Quantum phase drones, Chen explained as they worked. They exist partially out of sync with our reality, just like our enemy. We developed them to fight the phase wraith on its own terms. Rix watched in amazement as the drones bypassed all physical barriers, creating direct connections between the Horizon and the partially completed weapon. Why didn't you deploy these earlier? Because using them makes us visible to the phase wraith, Chen replied grimly. We've just announced our presence to an entity that exists in multiple realities simultaneously, and we've shown it exactly what we're capable of. As if in response, reality itself seemed to shudder. The air rippled with distortions as the phase wraith turned its full attention to the shipyard. Systems began failing faster, and even the quantum dampeners started to flicker. It's trying to rewrite the physical laws within the shipyard, Patel shouted over the growing chaos. Our safeguards won't hold. Chen's response was cut off as a wave of quantum distortion swept through the facility. For a moment, everyone experienced multiple versions of reality simultaneously. Versions where the project had failed, where the Alliance had fallen, where humanity had never survived its first encounter with the phase wraith. But in this reality, Captain Sarah Chen smiled. Lieutenant Patel, activate the quantum beacon. The Horizon's hull began to glow with an impossible light, emitting radiation that shouldn't have been able to exist in normal space. The multiple realities snapped back into one as the ship's quantum field stabilized the local spacetime. You were waiting for this, Urix realized. You wanted it to reveal itself. The phase wraith thinks it's winning, Chen confirmed, watching as her crew worked even faster now. It thinks it's shown us how powerless we are against its ability to manipulate reality. What it doesn't understand is that humanity's greatest breakthroughs have always come at our breaking point. The weapon they were building was nearly complete, a massive vessel that combined Alliance power generation with human phase technology. But now, Urix understood that it wasn't just a weapon. It was a message to an entity that had never failed before, never faced a species that could match its ability to manipulate reality. As the phase wraith gathered its power for another assault, humanity prepared to teach it why underestimating Earth had been its first and final mistake. The awakening. The combined fleet hung in space like a constellation of artificial stars. At its center, the newly completed weapon ship, christened Unity by its human and Alliance creators, pulsed with energies that defied conventional physics. Captain Chen stood on its bridge, surrounded by a crew that represented both humanity's ingenuity and the Alliance's technological mastery. Multiple quantum signatures detected, Lieutenant Patel announced, her hands moving across the advanced hybrid controls. The phase wraith is pulling power from every compromised station in a 50 light-year radius. It knows what we've built, Commander Rix observed from his position beside Chen. The Alliance officer had insisted on joining the mission, despite the risks. It's preparing for us. Good, Chen replied, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. That means it's afraid. The display showed the phase wraith's influence spreading like a web of corrupted reality, centered on what had once been the Alliance's primary quantum communication hub. The massive station had been transformed into something that hurt to look at. A structure that existed in multiple states simultaneously, its very presence an offense to the natural laws of spacetime. All ships, this is Captain Chen. She broadcast to the fleet. Remember your training. Standard weapons will be useless. Stay within the Unity's quantum field and wait for my signal. The phase wraith struck first. Reality rippled as it launched its attack, not with energy weapons or conventional forces, but by attempting to rewrite the laws of physics themselves within the fleet's vicinity. Ships at the formation's edge began to phase out of existence, their crews experiencing countless alternate timelines simultaneously. But this time, humanity was ready. Activate the quantum anchor, Chen ordered. The Unity's core hummed to life, generating a field of stable space-time that protected the fleet. Outside their bubble of protected reality, space itself twisted and distorted as the phase wraith raged against their defiance. It's trying to access our systems, Paddle reported, her fingers flying across controls as she countered the entity's attempts to infiltrate their network. The quantum isolation is holding, but it's learning, adapting to our defenses. Of course it is, Chen smiled grimly. That's exactly what we wanted. The Unity's main weapon began to power it up, not a conventional energy weapon, but a device that could reach across multiple realities and affect them all simultaneously. It was humanity's answer to an enemy that existed outside normal spacetime. A weapon that could do the same. All ships, execute Pattern Omega, Chen commanded. The fleet moved with perfect precision, forming a complex three-dimensional pattern around the Unity. Each vessel began generating its own quantum field, carefully calibrated to resonate with the others. The phase wraith seemed to sense their intent. The corrupted station at the center of its influence began to pulse with impossible energies, preparing to unleash its reality-altering wave across Alliance space. It's powering up its main device, Urix warned, his scales rippling with tension. If that wave hits, it won't, Chen interrupted. Lieutenant Patel, initiate quantum resonance cascade. The Unity's weapon fired, not a beam or a pulse, but a wave of pure quantum manipulation that rippled through multiple layers of reality simultaneously. The Alliance ships around them acted as amplifiers, each adding its own carefully tuned frequency to the cascade. For a moment, every being in the fleet experienced a glimpse of what the phase wraith saw, countless realities overlapping, infinite possibilities existing simultaneously. But where the entity sought to impose chaos, humanity had learned to create harmony. The quantum cascade struck the corrupted station, and reality itself seemed to scream. The phase wraith's influence began to fragment as the carefully tuned resonance forced it to exist in a single state, in a single reality. It's working, Patil announced, her voice tight with concentration. The entity is being forced into phase lock with our reality. But the phase wraith wasn't finished. As it was forced into a single state of existence, it lashed out with all its power. The corrupted station began to collapse in on itself, creating a singularity that threatened to tear apart the fabric of spacetime. All ships, fall back, Chen ordered, but she kept the Unity in position. Patel, divert all power to the quantum anchor. Urix, I need your people's expertise in containment fields. Now. The Alliance commander moved without hesitation, interfacing with his section of the hybrid controls. Together, human phase technology and Alliance containment systems created a bubble of stable space around the collapsing station. The phase wraith, Urix realized as he worked, it's trying to take us with it. If that singularity expands, it won't, Chen stated with the absolute certainty that had carried humanity through its darkest hours. Because we're not just containing it. We're going to show it why humanity never lost a second war to the same enemy. The Unity's quantum cascade intensified, its carefully modulated frequencies reshaping reality itself within the containment field. The phase wraith, trapped and unable to escape into other realities, found itself facing an enemy that had learned to master the very forces it had once thought were its alone to command. New dawn. Inside the Unity's bridge, time seemed to stretch as human and Alliance technology worked in perfect synchronization. The Phase Wraith's attempt to create a reality-destroying singularity had played directly into Captain Chen's strategy. The entity was now trapped in a cage of its own making, forced to exist in a single reality for the first time in its incomprehensible existence. Quantum containment at maximum, Lieutenant Paddle reported, sweat beading on her forehead as she maintained the delicate balance of forces. The entity is fully phase-locked, but the power drain is critical. Commander Urix monitored his own displays with growing concern. The containment field won't hold much longer. Even with our combined technologies, we're trying to contain something that naturally exists in multiple realities. We don't need to contain it indefinitely, Chen replied, her voice steady despite the strain showing on her face. We just need to hold it long enough to deliver our message. The Unity's quantum cascade generator began to pulse with a new pattern. Instead of trying to destroy the Phase Wraith, it was doing something far more sophisticated. It was communicating. "What are you doing?" Urix asked, watching in fascination as the quantum frequencies shifted and modulated. "Teaching it why humanity survived when others didn't," Chen explained. "We're showing it every reality where we faced its kind, every timeline where we failed, and how we learned from each failure. We're showing it why fighting us will always end the same way." Through the quantum link, the Phase Wraith experienced humanity's journey. It saw Earth's countless alternate timelines, each one showing a different path of adaptation and survival. It witnessed how humanity had turned its greatest weakness, its isolation from the galactic community, into its greatest strength. "Power fluctuations in the entity's quantum signature," Patil announced. "It's changing." The corrupted station at the center of the containment field began to shift and transform. The reality-warping energies that had threatened to tear apart space-time were being redirected, reshaped by the entity itself. "It understands," Chen said softly. "It's realizing that we're not just fighting it, we're offering it a choice." The Phase Wraith had never encountered a species that could match its ability to manipulate reality. But more than that, it had never met one that could understand its nature while remaining distinctly itself. Humanity had learned to touch multiple realities without losing its anchor to its own. "All ships, prepare for quantum surge," Chen broadcasted. "Lieutenant Patel, initiate final sequence." The Unity's systems began to hum with power as they executed humanity's true plan. The quantum cascade shifted again, creating a stable pocket of space-time where multiple realities could safely intersect. "We're not trying to destroy it," Urix realized, watching the readings. "We're giving it a home." The Phase Wraiths have been trying to rewrite our reality because they had nowhere else to exist, Chen confirmed. Humanity learned how to create spaces where multiple states of reality can coexist harmoniously. "We're not just ending this war. We're preventing all future ones." The entity's form began to stabilize within the quantum pocket, its influence retreating from alliance systems as it discovered a way to exist without needing to consume and corrupt other realities. The corrupted station transformed one final time, becoming an anchor point for the new quantum space. As the crisis subsided, Urix turned to Chen. "Your species knew this was possible from the beginning. Why didn't you tell us?" "Because we needed the Phase Wraith to understand it too," she replied. "Some solutions can't be imposed. They have to be discovered together." Throughout Alliance space, compromised systems began to return to normal. The crews of affected stations found themselves free of the entity's influence, with no memory of their time under its control. The quantum web it had been building was repurposed, becoming a network of stable points where the new quantum space could safely interface with normal reality. In the days that followed, the Alliance Council chambers were filled with discussions of humanity's role in the galaxy. The species they had once quarantined as primitive had shown them new ways of thinking about reality itself. Humanity's isolation had forced them to develop solutions that no other civilization had considered possible. "The quarantine is officially lifted," the High Speaker announced in a historic session. "Earth and its colonies are hereby recognized as full members of the Galactic Alliance." Furthermore, In recognition of humanity's unique perspectives and capabilities, we propose the establishment of a new division dedicated to exploring unconventional solutions to galactic threats. Captain Chen, standing before the council, allowed herself a small smile. The Phase Wraith incident had proved what humanity had always believed, that their greatest strengths came not from their technology or their resources, but from their ability to adapt, to think differently, and to find harmony in the midst of chaos. As she looked out at the assembled representatives of countless civilizations, she knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not by conquering or overpowering their adversaries, but by understanding them and finding ways to transform conflicts into cooperation. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and humanity would help light the way forward.